Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Welcome to the third week of the relationship series, laying the healthy foundation for the right foundation for a healthy marriage. And tonight we have Sheikh Bilal Dannoun with us again, and we'll be talking about love tonight, inshallah. We'll be talking about 5 languages of love, inshallah. So that's what we aspire to do, and hope to keep you with us, inshallah, throughout the night. But before starting, as always, I would like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as Australia's first peoples, and the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we work, study, and volunteer. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And I would also like to remind our audience that the views, thoughts, and the opinions expressed by our speakers are of their own, and they do not represent ISRA's stance. So thank you, Sheikh, once again for joining us tonight. We had a great discussion last week, alhamdulillah, on knowing your partner and yourself. And I do hope that especially our couples who've joined us have tried to implement some of those in their practices, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair for having me this week. I'm looking forward to a productive, inshallah, conversation around the love languages. And, love is something that is, it's very hard to define, by the way. I think if we went around the room, everybody would have a very different definition. Different cultures will have a different definition of love.
And what would be your definition, Sheikh, of love?
Well, that's why we're going to talk about the love languages today, and talk about all the many different ways we can express love, because what we're going to see is that when it comes to the love languages, and it's interesting how this concept or this framework has come from the works of Gary Chapman. That's the name of the author, Gary Chapman. He has a book called The 5 Love Languages. And subhanallah, and if you think about the word languages, I mean, I can sit here now and talk to you in a certain language, maybe the Arabic language, and you don't understand Arabic language. But maybe you have a different language and you talk to me in that language, and we talk to each other. We're not going to get anywhere, are we? And this is what's happening a lot of the times with many relationships, whereby the communication is not being the communication is not impactful, or there isn't this tethering. So because of just not understanding each other, you're not talking my language, and it's important to identify what is your language and what's the language of your partner. Inshallah, that's what we want to probably unpack today. And I guess the more languages you have when you're multilingual, the better the outcome as well. So the more languages you know, the more better. And you need to know those languages well, so it's not so frustrating listening to an accent or, listening to a dialect that it's a bit foreign and you're struggling to understand it. And I think this is what we want to try and achieve today, inshallah, in understanding and unpacking what is this love all about. Because interestingly, in the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the Institute of Marriage in Surah Ar-Rum, the Romans, and this ayah is always on the invitation cards, right? But how many of us actually pay attention to the specific words and the message of this ayah? And Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and from His signs, the signs that lead to Allah's love and His compassion towards His creation. From these signs is that He created for you from your own species, your own kind, min anfusikum azwaj. Allah created for us on this earth a zawj. Your zawj is your companion, your mate, your spouse in this context. And He says, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. So what the goal is through this companion is to find something very important called sakina. Sakina is tranquility. Like Brother Mustafa said, that we just felt a lot more at peace. We didn't even have to, speak out what the presenter spoke about last week. We just sort of organically implementing that, and we found ourselves at peace. And that's where you want to be ongoingly in your life, in your marriage, and in your life, and in your workplace. You want to be in a state where you're calm. And that's that sakina that you want to be in, right? So it's interesting how Allah says, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. And now elsewhere in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ جَعَلَ لَكُم مِّن بُيُوتِكُمْ سَكَنًا. That your home is a place of sakina, that Allah has made for you from your homes a place of sakan. Again, you need to find that at home. Now that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings to our attention two pillars or foundations, and that's what you said in the introduction to our talk, laying the foundation to a healthy marriage, right? This is what this whole course is about. It's about laying the foundation. So everything's all about the foundation. If the foundation is weak, then we're not going to have a strong building, right? Now Allah reminds us of some of these pillars or foundations. And now what does first thing he says in this verse? He says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ, and he placed between you both as mates that I created for you on this earth. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. So now he reminds us of mawadda. Now mawadda is now the word here that's the closest word to love, or to this concept of love language, or to the concept of love language is mawadda. So what's mawadda? Mawadda is not mahabba. You know, I can love you. I can say ana uhibbuka, ana uhibbuki. I love you. There's mahabba, and it's interesting, this word hubb, right? If you look at subhanallah, the Arabic language is just so rich. And if you look at the letter ha and ba, ha comes from ha, right? So it comes from within, and the b ends with your lips, and it's like this love stems from the heart. It should be coming from the heart, and it's verbalized, or it's communicated through the lips. So you say that you love the person, and we know that part of loving a person, you kiss that person, for example, right? And so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says mawadda, not mahabba, by the way. So mawadda is expressive love. It's how you express that love. Mawadda. Mahabba is, I love you, Brother Ahmed. I love you for the sake of Allah. And I probably have never bought you a coffee or a tea or...
We'll fix that up later.
I owe him. He's got me. Inshallah. I honestly love you. I may have never done... I'm probably never even told you that I love you, right? But subhanallah, now imagine if I went out of my way a little bit and I got you that tea, or I got you that gift, or I praise you, or I say a few nice things to you. Now you're feeling that mawadda. So mawadda would be expressive love or demonstrative love, and then comes the rahmah. But we'll leave the rahmah for another time.
MashaAllah, beautiful. Sheikh, just on that, like, we've got this love which is painted by the Hollywood, the movies, the romance, and now you talked about sakina, is contentment, tranquility, and then you moved on to love. Is there really a difference, let's say, from an Islamic perspective, understanding of love within the Islamic framework to what we see, let's say, in Hollywood or in those movies, or like, is there an overlap? Could you maybe just let's explore that before we go into the languages? But
we're talking about if we're talking about romanticism or romance type of love, that type of love. What we've seen, there was a study done by one lady, I can't remember her name, Dorothy something, and they actually analyzed romantic type of love, where you want to base your relationship purely on just that romance and what comes with that, being just always romantic and what have you. And those relationships on average lasted 2 years. And I know that in the Gottman Institute, they talk about this limerence phase. Limerence. It's like this infatuation.
So the honeymoon.
The honeymoon phase, But, subhanAllah, true love kicks in after that. That can only last for so long, by the way, up to about 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, and then true love kicks in, right? So But what we do need to keep in mind is a lot of what we did during the honeymoon phase and what we did during that very romantic, heightened feelings, butterflies, it doesn't stay like that forever, right? And so we have to appreciate that true love will come in and because life doesn't work that way. Life is going to be throwing at us many stresses, curveballs, hardships, trials. Allah's going to test us, right? And we need to work with that. We need to understand that type of love is a fleeting type of love, that romantic. It will be more on having those heightened feelings are more more sparing. They're just from sort of time to time.
So it could be maintained over time, or it could be relived over time.
It can be, of course, but it can't be like you can't be in that state all the time. You can't be in that state all the time. That's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not realistic. It's not realistic to say you're going to stay in that. I challenge anyone who's been married for 10 years or 20 years and say let's say they had butterfly feelings in their stomach when they first saw that person. Do they still have them after 2 years? If they do, I'd be very interested to know that they still have butterflies.
It could be a case study, maybe.
Huh?
It could be a case study.
Could be, Allahu A'lam. I'm just throwing it out there, Allahu A'lam.
Okay, thank you, Sheikh. So, again, just before we go into the different languages, what happens if, we'll discuss the different love languages, but what happens if someone avoids these love languages, Sheikh? Like, I guess from your experience, from your practice, why is it so important?
The aim of the love languages is to ensure an emotional connection. EC. Let's always remember EC, emotional connection. Because for as long as we're emotionally connected, PC is going to be easy, which is physical connection, right? So there's a connection between the emotional connection and the physical connection. And for me to be around you and for me to be in a positive sentiment override towards you, to be able to just really be happy around you, I need to be emotionally connected to you. And in order to be emotionally connected to you, I've got a set of expectations. I've got a set of needs and values. And for as long as you're talking in my love language, or you're meeting my need, or you are respecting my values, then we're going to stay connected. So we all do have a way of wanting to be loved. And when you're not talking my love language, I'm not feeling it. Because I feel love in a different way to you. You feel love in a different way to me. We feel love differently. And that's when we're going to go then into the love language and explore what are we talking about in how people feel loved.
Yeah. Very interesting, Sheikh. Could we say that then, avoiding these love languages could result in an emotional checkout from the marriage, and that could kind of lead down to a divorce?
Absolutely. SubhanAllah, you just reminded me, only today I had a case. And I saw this couple about probably a good year and a half ago, and they've come back, and she's quite checked out. There's a lot of resentment. He once did something, and that resentment. So what a lack of communicating in your partner's love language can do, it could lead to resentment, because you're expecting something. That partner's not going to do it for you. They're not doing it for you. You can resent that person. And that resentment over time, it's actually proven or shown that resentment is one of the biggest killers of marriage. Okay, that you resent that person, and that resentment is just building. So with this couple that came to me today, interestingly, wallahi, they brought up the love languages, because I brought that up in the last session. I said, look, here's an assessment that you can do. And by the way, what we're going to talk about today can be assessed. There's an assessment that you do called the 5 Love Languages Assessment. And she said, look, you told him about it, and he didn't take it seriously. He goes, oh, why do I have to do this? I don't believe in that. And now over time, the resentment has built up, and now she's saying, "Well, I'm checked out. I'm checked out," and he's now saying, "I'll do anything to save the marriage." And now he's open to the idea, a year and a half later, to do some work and to start to really communicate in his wife's love language, which turns out to be one of our love languages that we'll talk about is acts of service. Now, there's 4 kids involved, all right? She's running her own business. 4 kids involved. She's running her own business, and God knows what other stresses are going on at home, right? And all she would appreciate from her husband is to just be a little bit more hands-on, be a little bit more engaged with the children, with the business, with the work. And mind you, she has to do more of the heavy lifting because he's gone through an injury where he hasn't worked for 6 months, right? And now, and then she did say to me that recently he has been pulling his weight. He has been communicating in that love language called acts of service. And she said, I feel a bit better, but I'm still quite distant from him. Because now what happens, remember that, and then what was his complaint, do you think? Can anyone tell me what his complaint was? If she's emotionally not connected to him, you know where I'm getting at with this, right, guys? So what's going to be lacking? Physical. The physical connection. So his biggest complaint was, we don't get physical, right? And I'm saying to him, how do you expect to get physical? How do you expect her to get physical when, especially as a woman, she needs a good reason or reasons to get intimate with you, and you're not talking her love language. And when you don't speak her love language, she's not going to speak your love language, which is going to be one of the 5 languages called physical touch, right? And now we can see that just by reciprocating in your partner, just when you do your partner's love language well, they will reciprocate and do your love language well.
That's right. Yeah. Maybe let's start with that, Sheikh, acts of service as one of the love languages, since you've made the introduction through there. But if you could give us maybe a general idea of what an act of service is, and how is it a love language, and we'll take it from there. So acts of service is about, if I had to summarize it, it would be, what is it that will make my partner's life easier, right? What's it going to make is, so now, of course, males would have a certain list, females will have a certain list, okay? So what do you guys think? Let me ask the ladies in this room, what do you think that if a male's highest love language, priority, and by the way, I don't think we've mentioned this, what we're going to see with this love languages, and when you do the assessment, you get percentages, all right? It's a very quick assessment, but you're going to see that your partner may have a very high need for, say, acts of service in this example, right? Sometimes the love languages can be very close to each other in terms of percentages, right? But let's say that your partner or a man's highest love language is acts of service. What do you think? What are some of the things that he will be looking for, ladies?
Cooking.
No. The other way. That's the girls. That's the ladies. That's the ladies' list. We want the men's list. Sorry.
Oh, so if we give them a list?
No. So what we have here is a man's highest need is acts of service, right? So what is he? Okay, you're saying okay.
What is he expecting from me?
From you. Okay. We can go down that route. Okay, because you used the word. Okay, you used cooking. And the reason I would have thought it would have been more on the list of the woman is because she's so busy, she would expect that to help out with the cooking. But then it can be looked at from the other way, that acts of service is that she cooks a meal for me because I'm too busy. So yes, it can be looked at both ways. You're right. That's a good example still. All right, keep going.
Maybe, to be honest, that's not for me, but once my friend told me that she filled up petrol for her husband and he found it like the biggest deal in the world.
Like a really good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but
Filling up petrol for your husband.
I don't know how she found that out, was that he used to do that for her. And he wasn't doing what she wanted, and she's like, wait, hang on a minute, maybe he thinks that if I fill up petrol for him, then he'll appreciate it. It did turn out to be like that.
So it turned out to be her love language.
So, no,
No?
so him filling up petrol for her
Yes.
wasn't what she wanted.
Subhanallah.
But he was doing it for her because that's what he would appreciate.
That's right, and
So that's how.
and that's what we're going to learn as well today. Is how do you identify what is your partner's love language? And one of the ways we identify the partner's love language is what do they like doing for you? Because they think that them doing that act is their love languages, okay? A love language. But that's a good example. Any other examples? Anyone want to contribute to the discussion around acts of service? So it could be that he appreciates, for example, that, you know, she pays the bills. You know, that because he's so busy, and it all depends on, you know, the type of lifestyle I guess you're going to have. You know, he's not going to expect her probably to do the lawn mowing, although he might. It depends on the lawn. It depends, I guess, on the quality of your lawn, and so I think, you know, what would you say, Brother Ahmed? I've just gotten blank with some of my examples.
A nice cup of Turkish tea.
Ah,
you know,
yes,
so,
yeah. Like I'm in the
perhaps,
I'm in the thick of work, and I'm just and then all of a sudden this cup of tea just sits on my.
I go in the meeting sometimes in my room, right, and I tell my wife, "Could you please bring me a cup of tea?" And sometimes she forgets, so I become very resentful. I get back to, I'm like, you know, you didn't bring me tea, and I can't leave my meeting either. So,
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, that's one small thing, perhaps.
Yeah, it's the small things. Now, I guess if we, it's the things that are just going to make it a little bit more easier for him. Whatever is going to just make him, I guess, if you'll know that if you, for example, do something for your husband, and he lights up like a, you know, I was gonna say like a Christmas tree, but that's how
Age.
I don't know. So, you know, he's just like, then you know that's what he likes. You know, you've done something for him. That's how we're going to find out, you know, what it is. Now, for a woman, for example, it could be, you know, running the errands, like, you know, the errands, like, you know, you go and do things that you go do some shopping, you look after the children, you take some time out to look after the children, or you go and fill up petrol in the car, or you make sure always you service your wife's car. That's all acts of service. It's making things easier for her. She doesn't have to worry about those things, right? So acts of service really is just about what's going to just release the pressure, because we especially in certain parts of the world, certain cities, we are very, very busy, and we would appreciate that, just that little bit of a helping hand, maybe just getting his outfit ready and having it ready there for him, or, you know, the old school, like you bring the shoes, or I don't know if they do that.
Yeah, what I'm seeing, Sheikh, is more and more younger couples especially are working. So it's both the husband and the wife who are working now. So I feel that this is becoming even more important because, like, you're both outside, you both come, you have different commitments sometimes, different work schedules, different loading, and sometimes you might have to do things on a weekend, work-related. So I kind of see this as sometimes I think, okay, she's a human being too. Don't forget Ahmed, like, you know. So these small things that I do, I guess what we call acts of worship, acts of service is worship. That's how I see it. Like, you know, I try to empty the dishwasher as much as I can, or, you know, hang the clothes. Let's say
just
things
don't
like
fill
that.
up the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Because if you fill up the dishwasher, she doesn't like the way you fill it up. I'm always getting in trouble for that.
It's my mom. It's my mom who makes that. My wife is happy as long as I'm filling it up. So
she's happy, huh? She doesn't mind how as long as you're filling it up.
That's
See,
right.
some women are picky. I see a lot of
So-
the brothers laughing here, smiling. Huh? You're also guilty like me.
yeah, I guess these things, especially in the household, I feel that they're becoming even more important nowadays. Sheikh, would you kind of agree with that, or
Absolutely,
is that
absolutely.
what you're
Especially if
experiencing
both of you are working, the housework something was going to give, and a lot of the housework gives, and then you're trying to find time for fun time, for you're trying to find some time to really stay connected, but all you're doing is work, and the housework, and then comes the kids, then comes the in-laws from overseas, or whatever it is. I think you've got to be very intentional about your time, and communicating your roles. Communicating this concept, I think we might talk about later on, we time. This we time, like, when's we time and when's me time. We time, me time. So it's kind of come down to a lot of communication. I know personally in my life with my wife, we have different we time, me time in summer compared to winter, because of daylight hours, compared to Ramadan, which is a very unique month out of the year. So there's ongoing communication about, okay, what's happening this Ramadan? Who's doing what? What are we doing this summer? When are we going for our walks? When are we going for our date night? There's more daylight. There's more, we change things around as well. So we have to work with also our environment, our circumstances. But I think communication is key. Especially if the two are working, because you feel like you're just roommates, even though, subhanAllah, even though you might feel like, we love each other, all good, we're just working very hard, but you might, at the end of the day, you're a human being and you want to feel loved and you want to feel that emotional connection, and that daily grind can really impact that emotional connection.
And something that I've read from Gorum Institute as well, Sheikh, is that women actually find attractive when their husbands do housework. So you're actually scoring points. Like, if, let's say, how the case that you gave today about how the woman had checked out emotionally, and the man wasn't getting the physical interaction that he wanted. So what he was saying, that the research that they've done showed that women actually found their spouses doing like these acts of service quite attractive. So that's something interesting to note, perhaps.
I definitely think I'll take a note of that one. But look, there's a lot of research into what is it that makes you look attractive in front of your spouse. And as you said, rightly so, with the Gottman Institute research, there's other research that talk about you being in your element makes you look very attractive. So when you're working as a man, for example, you're in your element, working very hard, and your wife looks at you working, that's actually attractive. Okay, because it's like, there's my man, he's working hard, trying to earn a living for us. He's out there, he's trying to make it work. So being in your element actually is quite attractive. The other one is surprise. When you surprise your partner, it makes you look good in front of your partner. The other one is when you come together after being away from so long, you actually look attractive. And so what do they say? Distance makes the heart grow fonder, right? So that distance sometimes, and coming together. So so especially if we talk about later on date nights, if you're very, very busy, right, and the only time you can connect is for maybe 6 hours a week or 4 hours or whatever that's going to be, you being busy that whole week and coming together for those few hours, it feels just amazing. It feels like you're just that actually feels, remember talking about those honeymoon periods. So if you're very, very busy, but if you can just make sure that there is time that's locked in, that you have this we time moment, that will actually reignite that spark, insha'Allah ta'ala.
Yeah, I think since you've touched on that as well, Sheikh, let's continue with that, the quality time that you talk about as one of the love languages.
Okay.
So you've talked about me time versus we time. Should we maybe expand on that first, take it from there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So one of the love languages is spending quality time with your spouse. And the operative word is? Quality. Well done. Points for that brother over there in that hubby. So it is about the quality, and you could be, spending time together, but you feel miles apart. So it's not about the proximity. It's that connection again. And so quality time moments must be prioritized in a relationship. So there's we time and me time. And I always say to couples, you should talk about we time first, because the rest of it's going to be organically, naturally me time, right? Lock in your we time moments. Maybe you're a shift worker. So what you want to do is maybe communicate these we time moments, say on Sunday night or week to week. Let's say Sunday night as an example. Okay, hey honey, what's your week looking like this week? Okay, okay, when are you off? What's your timetable looking like? All right, when can we go for date night? Okay. We'll go on this day, this time. And so when that day comes and that time comes, you show up in the same way that you show up to your specialist appointment, to your doctor's appointment, to your accountant appointment. You show up, which tells your partner how much you value them and how much you prioritize and just love being with them, right? So we time is about what are the moments during the week that you'll spend together, and that apart from these moments, just leave me alone. Just let me be in my element. Let me be in my worship. Let me be with whatever I've got to do. Okay, but I assure you that when I show up to our we time moments, that there are going to be some rules that when we show up, that you might want to communicate what those rules are. So when it comes to we time moments, I believe there's I speak in my course about 3 R's, which is there's got to be a ritual. So the ritual could be a walk and talk. Okay, and by the way, that's one of the most powerful ways to be connected and to brainstorm ideas, walk and talk in nature. There's, subhanAllah, there's this, you just find that there's more of a connection. It just does amazing things when you walk and talk. You go out and you just have, so the ritual would be like, say, a walk and talk. The ritual would be, say, just a coffee. The ritual would be a dinner. The ritual would be just shopping together, all right? That's the R for a ritual. Then there's the R for routine.
Shopping might not be a very good idea at the time to
we're going into a recession, that's right. Forget about the shopping example, delete that, cameraman. The ritual has a routine. So we do this routinely. Remember, it's we time moments that we do routinely, right? And then the third R is the rules. So what are the rules when we have we time? So when I have we time with my wife, we're not allowed to use devices. Right? Sometimes I'm a little bit guilty. She gets mad at me. Right? So devices can be divisive. They can divide you, right? Okay. So with devices, there's actually studies to show that even if you put your phone, if you come to a meeting, and even if you put your phone down probably upwards, it shows the other person that I'm important, but probably not that important for you to have your phone right there as well, expecting to probably play with your phone or answer some messages. So one of the ways to stay checked in, and that falls under the quality word, the operative word, quality time, is to really not have your phones on you, to have them away from you. As a now, of course, sometimes that's not feasible. You've got children. That's fine. There might be a rule that says we'll take no calls except for emergency call. The doctor, for example, is with his wife. Well, he's probably got patients that he has to attend to, right? Depending on who you are, I guess, and what maybe you work in a job that demands that you take those calls, right? So we're just talking if there's a way not to have the devices. So what are the rules? The rules will be, for example, we're not going to talk about this topic, only this topic. We're not going to talk about anything stressful. We're just going to talk about, our dreams and our vision and maybe, things like that. So it's important to have a lot of, quality time together. We time, they really do, subhanAllah, they really do impact that emotional connection. I remember one of my sons, my first son, we used to take him to date nights because we never had anybody to to babysit. You know the story, right? So we take him along, and he stayed coming along with us until he was about 5, 6, 7, I think, or until and then his sibling came, and then their sibling came, right? Okay, and then it was no longer a date night; it was a disaster night. Yeah. Right. It was honestly, it was disaster.
Sounds familiar.
You know, I don't know how many you've got, but you know what's interesting, right? Like, so my son, he got so used to this word date night, he thought he's part of it, right? Wallah, right? He goes, Dad, like, when's date night? Why not date night? So subhanallah, and interesting. So what we did, so finally we found that babysitter, that babysitter. It is very hard to find, right? So we found that babysitter, and I remember, and I went with my wife, we went shopping for the first time with our kids. I don't know if you've ever done that. Like, imagine like years, week in, week out, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves getting out of the car and walking into a shopping center. We were going to just do some shopping and go on a date night. And it felt like we were just like newlyweds. So it's like, wow, right? And all because of, subhanAllah, we honestly felt that emotional connection. It was so stressful. Yeah. So quality time, really reconnecting, prioritizing, not allowing for anything to compete. Now, if I have to cancel the date night, if we have to, then we will actually renegotiate it somewhere in the week, right? Because it's important for that emotional connection.
And it feels, I mean, I could probably give examples from my own marriage that when you neglect it long enough, it causes bigger issues. This is what I realized personally. Sometimes you think it's a small issue, but then it becomes a big issue all of a sudden. And I've personally realized that it's because I haven't spent that quality time with my wife, let's say 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and now every small thing is becoming a major problem in the house. That's my experience. So I think it's really important to put that in.
Yes, I think what you're talking about reminds me of the emotional love bank of debits and credits. Right? So the emotional love bank is about that you have this record of debits and credits. So every time your husband, let's say, does something positive, you give him a credit, right? And he keeps on getting all these credits, and then he does something that you've told him not to do, and he does it, he gets a debit, right? So this is what the Gottman Institute they call it the emotional love bank, and they talk about being in a positive sentiment override or a negative sentiment override. What does that mean? Well, the study and the research shows that there's a 5-to-1 ratio, that for as long as there are 5 credits for every 1 debit, you're going to feel like your partner's done 5 good things and only 1 bad thing, right? That means you're going to feel positive towards them. So now let's say they do something, don't worry about it. Yeah, I'll forgive you. It's okay. It's all good. Because there's enough credits, right? You got heaps of credits, right? But as soon as the studies show that as soon as it's a 1-to-1 ratio, 1-to-1, so you still got a good deed, and you got a sayyi'ah or a bad deed, right? That 1-to-1 ratio is actually dangerous, because now your partner, and imagine it was heaps of debits, by the way, right? Now your partner is in a negative sentiment override, and as soon as you do the slightest thing,
they're off the edge.
They don't take out a water pistol to shoot you. They'll take out the cannon, right? Woof, and they'll just go off. And like I said, it's like, what happened? What did I do wrong? It wasn't what you did right now.
Right, yeah.
It's like you said. It's that compounding, it's that build-up, it's that resentment, it's that you haven't been talking my love language, it's that I feel very lonely in this marriage. I didn't get married to be just a roommate or a housemate, right? That's what's happening here, and we need to go back and say, all right, what am I doing? What am I communicating in my partner's love language? Because if you are, there's going to be more credits, right? That's where the love language and this notion of the emotional love bank and positive sentiment override, negative sentiment override sort of comes together beautifully.
Yeah. John Gray, in his book Men Are from Mars and Women Are from Venus, he says that when a woman keeps score, no matter how big or small a gift of love is, it scores 1 point. Each gift has equal value. So, and then he kind of goes on to talk about, as men, sometimes we think that when we do something major, that's it, we don't have to do anything else for the next 2-3 weeks or month. The other day, someone called me up. He goes, just because you took your wife to Hajj, don't think that you don't have to do anything for the next 3 months or something, right?
She's going to be right back at...
I said, at least a few weeks, it should be fine, you know.
And has it been?
That's what I said, but obviously, but I guess there's this concept as well, Sheikh, and I want to kind of move into gifting as a third language of love on this. So, like, just giving small things, especially like to for the husbands to their wives, instead of giving big breaks or every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks. And I think gifts have an important role in that kind of, I guess, setting as well. What would you say, Sheikh? And if you want to expand on that gifting as a language of love as well, perhaps.
Before I answer that, I want to just go, subhanAllah, I just remembered, I wanted to sort of put things, I like to always put things within the framework of Islam as well.
Please, yes.
Because sometimes we sort of get lost with all of the research and all of the statistics and knowledge that's out there. But I just want to talk about, because I remember when I analyzed the love languages, I wanted to reflect and think and ponder over the Sunnah. Right, and the tradition of our Prophet ﷺ, and what examples can we deduce from his life? Because from what I've seen in almost any area of life, Islam has spoken about it in one way or another. You find that Islam has, because Islam is the solution to all of the world's problems, mentally, physically. If we're going to talk, mentally, physically, emotionally, relationships, rights. So when I was analyzing, for example, these love languages, so the first thing that came to my mind today was mawadda, right? Which we said is not just in the heart, it's expressive. So hence, just like a language is expressed, mawadda is something that you express. Allah wants us to express our love towards our spouse. So there is there was that notion. Now we say, okay, where does, for example, acts of service? Where does acts of service fit in Islam? Our Prophet ﷺ, when Aisha radiallahu anha was asked about him, كيف كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, how was he at home? What was he up to? What did she say? She said, كان يكون في مهنة أهله. That he was in the service or at the service of his family members. Acts of service. So it didn't take away from his prophethood or his manhood, to be servicing his household members. Because, unfortunately, in some cultures, it's unbefitting for the man to, God forbid, that he packs the dishwasher or unpacks the dishwasher or serve the tea. No, that's the wife does that. That's cultural talk. That's not Islamic talk, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ, and in another hadith, he would milk the cattle, he would mend his own clothes and shoes. He was there. He was at the service of his household members. But when the time for salah came, Allahu Akbar means Allah is greater than all of this. We go to salah now, right? So that's acts of service, right? And when we look at, for example, the second love language that we spoke about, which was quality time, if you look at the Prophet ﷺ, if you read his biography and you read about the Prophet ﷺ with his wives or with the companions or with whomever he spent, you'd think he just spent all his time just with his wives or all his time with the Sahaba, right? But he was a very balanced and disciplined individual. And I think one of the things that we have to always keep in mind in the Marital Institute is this concept of discipline. We need to be disciplined and we need to be balanced. That the Prophet ﷺ endorsed the statement of Abu Darda, who said, "Inna li rabbika alayka haq, wa inna li nafsika alayka haq, wa inna li ahlika alayka haq, fa'ati kulla dhi haqqin haqqa." Allah has rights. Your body has rights. and your body is your your emotional body, your physical body, your mental body, all of that. And your وَإِنَّ لِأَهْلِكَ, your family have rights. فَأَعْطِ كُلَّ ذِي حَقٍّ, and give everyone that has a right over you, give them their right. Right? Islam teaches us to be very disciplined human beings, very balanced human beings, right? We don't go to the extreme with anything. We don't go to the extreme of going too far and doing something, and we go to the other extreme where we are very lackadaisical, or we're very lazy, or we're not very attentive, right? So we need to be disciplined, inshallah ta'ala. Which brings me on to the third one, which is the gift, receiving gifts is some of the spouse's love language. So if your partner's love language is receiving gifts, that means that what makes them feel special is the fact that you give them a gift. And it's not the size of the gift, like the old adage says. What is that quote? It was the thought that counts, right? We all know that. It's the thought, and that's so true, because if my wife was to get me a gift, right? For me, it wasn't this $2 cup that I've been, this $2 cup might be the gift, right? Because she knew I've wanted this size cup for whatever reason, right? For me, I don't look at the value of the cup. I look at the fact that, oh my God, she actually went out of her way. She had to park the car. She had to walk. She had to go through, find it, look for it, and she had to stand at that checkout. And then she's probably got a baby that's crying, and she went to do all that for this $2 cup. Man, that's so sweet. That's so beautiful, right? So you have to understand that to the person that you're gifting that gift, it makes them feel like that you really prioritize them, that you thought about them, that you're really into them, right? So it is the thought that counts, right? If you can combine between the value and the thought, even better,
But I guess for that, you got to really know what your spouse wants.
That's which brings us to the next question. How do you work that out? Well, you maybe want to see what made them light up like what example are we using this time? We can't use like the opera house, or like
these lights here.
Like these lights.
Ramadan lights. That's it. Yeah.
The Ramadan. If you look at what gifts did your partner receive? Did they receive in the past that made them really happy? Oh, they like electronics. They like flowers. They like gift vouchers. Maybe it's a gift voucher for a massage. They like perfume, whatever it is. Maybe ask their friends. Maybe ask them, hey, I want to write a list. So maybe send me a list of all the things that you love on your bucket list.
Allahu Akbar.
Is that all right? Or that's going to send us broke, right?
No, that's good. You'll have a lifelong list to work on, I think, inshallah.
And then you can just go off the list,
That's good,
it doesn't have to be complicated, right?
Yeah,
but receiving gifts, and look, subhanallah. Again, let's go now back to the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, tahadu tahabbu, 2 words. Tahadu, give, yani hadiyya, give a hadiyya, tahabbu, and your love for one another will increase. So one of the easiest pathways to nurturing and fostering that emotional connection and that love, and to get credits and to increase emotional connection, it's just a simple gift, right? You give that gift because of the sunnah. You give that gift because you know that it's going to increase that mawaddah. Okay, and that mawaddah is going to lead to a more stable relationship, a more happier relationship. So yes, tahadu tahabbu, that's what the Prophet ﷺ said.
Yeah, I'm a bit guilty in this regard personally, Sheikh. But it's...
there you go, online shopping. How good is that?
I gotta learn the ways, inshallah.
Where there's a will, there's a way. But you got to be willing. You got to be willing. You got to prioritize it. You got to be intentional about it. You got to write it down. You've got to, and look, take advantage of Eid times. Make it maybe at least as a minimum on Eid time that you go all out a bit. surprises and gifts. Like you can even gift them a little note in their lunchbox. Hey, thank you, I love you, thinking about you, you're awesome, whatever else you want to write to them. Like imagine you just open up, you're having a really boring day, a really drained day, and you open up your lunchbox to get your sandwich out, and there's a note from your partner. What's that? Oh my God, that's so beautiful, right? Subhanallah, it's the little things that are the big things. The little things are the big things, right? It's these little things that count, inshaAllah ta'ala. And so be intentional about giving gifts, inshaAllah ta'ala.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Let's move on to our fourth language of love, which is words of affirmation, Sheikh. I guess you mentioned this and you talk about this wow factor as well. Could you expand on that for us?
So the fourth love language is words of affirmation. Let's begin with the sunnah. The sunnah in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, if somebody does an act of goodness towards you, مَنْ صَنَعَ إِلَيْكُمْ مَعْرُوفًا فَكَافِئُوهُ, that when someone does an act of kindness towards you, give them a mukafa'a, say something, do something. So affirm it, acknowledge it. So words of affirmation is about praise, it's about acknowledgement, it's about compliments, right? So if we look at words of affirmation also from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that you have excelled in praise when you say Jazakallahu khairan. So when you're saying Jazakallahu khairan to a male, or Jazakillahu khairan to a female, or Jazakumullahu khairan to a group, you've actually excelled in praising, or you've excelled in words of affirmation, right? So don't undermine, even if it's your partner, it's not being formal with your partner to say Jazakallahu khairan. It's being respectful, it's being the sunnah, right? And it's ensuring that you're maintaining that connection with the person, right? So Jazakallahu khairan, when I now look at, if what I would do if I was you didn't know this hadith, go and look up the origin of Jazakallahu khairan, right? And go and appreciate what the Prophet ﷺ said. So you can appreciate when someone says that to you. And so you can start saying it more, inshaAllah ta'ala. There's a philosopher who said words to the effect of praise is the sweetest of sounds. Praise is the sweetest. Subhanallah, many of us love receiving compliments. I mean, when someone compliments you, you feel good, like, oh, Jazakallah khairan, the feedback was good, I was really, happy with what you said and what you did. It makes a person probably want to give back more. Oh, I'm appreciated, I'm acknowledged, oh, they liked it, oh, I didn't know, I thought it was bad, right? But when you give back that feedback to anybody, and that's what's good about feedback. I mean, how many of you love reading reviews when you're on Amazon or, it makes you more encouraged, right? That's feedback. That's and what you're doing with words of affirmation, you're feeding back to your partner that you appreciate them, that you love them, that you acknowledge them. And how do you know if that's your partner's love language? One of the ways that you actually know is if they're very sensitive to criticism. See, now there's an Arabic saying that says بِضِدِّهَا تُعْرَفُ الْأَشْيَاءُ. You can know things by knowing the opposite, right? So now, if my partner is quite sensitive to criticism, then their love language must be or might be words of affirmation, right? So that's one of the ways. Or if your partner, for example, is always complimenting and always praising, it must be their love language. Because why are they doing it? Because they think everybody else likes that too, right? So that's how we get to know also the love language of words of affirmation. So acknowledgement, recognition, praise. This is what some of us, those who have words of affirmation as their primary, we need to give a lot of that, because it could be that they lack maybe self-esteem, maybe they've been bullied and they think they're not enough. So they need a lot of it maybe. Maybe if they've been traumatized, in a way their confidence is quite low, they were always demeaned by their parents or bullied at school. That's how you might know that person is going to need a lot of compliments to get them charged, to get them going. You know, one I don't know, famous person once said, he goes, I can live off a compliment for a month. Right? It's like it gives him juice. It gives him that drive. It gives him that energy, right? You compliment him, he wants to do more, right? And we find, you know, who do you think out of the two genders would probably want compliments more?
Females.
Females or males?
No, I think males.
Males?
Yeah, I think
Males, hands up. Males? Yeah. What do you think?
I think men look for appreciation.
Yeah. They want that acknowledgement, because a man naturally, when you appreciate, see, the man wants to give, yes or no? The man is the giver. He's the qawwam. He's the one that wants to give, right? That's how it should be. So if he's giving, that's a good thing. And when he's being appreciated, is he going to give more or less? More. So when you appreciate your man, especially if that's his words, if his love language is words of affirmation, you're going to now make him continue to give and give even more, because you appreciate. But now, if you're not appreciating him, right, what do you think he might do? Resent, or he might go elsewhere and find someone who's going to appreciate him. And that's when we find infidelity kicks in sometimes. Because the husband doesn't feel valued, acknowledged, appreciated. He's working very hard, and he just has a very demanding life and demanding wife, probably, right? And so he feels like, you know what, I'm not appreciated here. I'll go somewhere else where they will appreciate me. Not that that's justification to do infidelity or haram, but we have to understand the human element to all of us, right? And so it's really important. If that's your partner's love language, appreciate them, give them the compliments and that appreciation.
And in your course, Sheikh, you've got this quote: words that are left unspoken that leaves many hearts broken.
You're absolutely right. Well done, mashallah, Allah mubarak. It's the words that are left unspoken that leave many hearts broken. It's not what only that you're saying that's breaking the heart, the swearing, the abuse, it's what you're not saying that's breaking the heart. Like, where's the appreciation? Where's I love you? Where's I appreciate you? I'm fond of you. You're amazing. Like I said, it really goes a long way. Just that acknowledgement. Even if you just acknowledge, the garden. Like, I know sometimes if I was to do the lawn mowing, my wife praises me and she goes, oh, that's a good job. I feel, oh, wow. I'm looking forward to the next lawn mowing session, not.
Yeah. But also, John Gorham has some interesting research too, Sheikh, and he talks about these bids for each other's attention, and he mentions that they observe couples, and over a 10-year period, let's say, and the ones that stay married are the ones that turn each other's bid for attention on average 86%, and the divorced ones, they respond to each other's bid for attention about 33% of the time on average.
Yes, subhanAllah, that's a beautiful observation. Yeah. So what they did, the Gottman Institute, remember, like John Gottman was studying relationships for probably over 50 years, right? Imagine how good that, and they're doing it in an academic level and in a setting where they've got all the they've got all the resources, and they've got all the money to do that, right? So we learn from their experiences, right? So what they did, they would get couples to come to a unit that they've got a two-way mirror.
The love lab.
The love lab, that's it, the love lab, that's right. So that it was a two-way mirror, and they could see in the behaviors. They've got the microphones, they've got them even wired up. At times you have to wear wires just to measure their heartbeat and everything, like full on, right? So they were observing couple after couple, and they did this for a period of time, and then they wanted to see, like, those that were in what they call the masters, like those who stayed happily married, those that were in successful marriage. Were there any clues? Was there anything that we can pick up that's a pattern? Because we can pick up patterns, right, from human behavior. So they looked, and then they couldn't see anything. And they kept on looking over this footage, right? I don't know if you know this because I've watched that episode. And they just couldn't work out, those who stayed together and those who end up divorced or those in toxic marriages, like what were they doing different? And they just couldn't work it out. And they had to just keep on going over the footage again and again and again until they got it. And they said that the key contributor was that those couples that stayed together would actually turn towards their partner's bid for an attention. What's a bid for attention? You know, it could be,
They ask for attention.
Yeah, they're asking for attention, like, hey, look at that car. And you might be on your phone and you might just go, oh yeah, that's not called turning towards. Or it could be like, you know, but if I said, oh, look, I'm on my phone and then my wife said, oh, look at that car. And I go, oh, where? Oh, where is it? Oh, mashallah, it's beautiful. And then I did that. That's okay, because now I've actually turned towards her. I've acknowledged her. I've acknowledged the car. Now, people who, now you can just imagine it on many examples, right? Hey, you call them out, or they pretend they didn't hear you, or they call them out. So what they said that those who turned towards their partner, okay, 86% of the time, they're called the masters. That it was all about this turning towards as opposed to turning away or turning even against. They speak about different concept of turning. And subhanAllah, it is about, and subhanAllah, yes, I remember when I always look back to the sunnah. And when we look back to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we see that the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he spoke to someone, do you know that he never spoke to someone like this, side by side? He would face the person.
Beautiful.
Right? That's why I'm struggling a little bit with this conversation. It's like, who do I look at? I want to look at you, and I want to look at you and look at this camera, right? But the sunnah is to really, to look at the person, to face them, to look with your eyes, to listen with your eyes, and to listen with your ears, right? So you want to be checked in. And I'll tell you something, the more you're intentional you're about this, you become about the sunnah and being checked in, the more better you're going to get it. Don't tell me, oh, I'm not used to that. I don't know how to be like that. Well, it's like anything in life. You gotta learn, right? You've got to implement that, practice that build that muscle, exercise that muscle, strengthen it, right? And go and do the research. Go and learn what's out there. I had a brother reach out to me today, and he's married. He's got 2 children, and he said to me, look, he goes, I've seen you before, but I want to talk to you about something else. I go, what's wrong? And he goes to me, look, I'm addicted to watching inappropriate content, And I go, well, jazakallah khair, man. Like, that's amazing that you're brave enough to come out and do that. I commend you for that, And we started talking and I started like challenging telling him certain things that he can do that like will create some fear element and some excitement element of how to move forward, right? And just basic tools, and he just found it like so amazing. So there's anything, and I go, look, practice this for a while. If this doesn't work, I've got a course for you that you can do that will help you, right? But we need to, we went and spoke about it at length. What I'm trying to say here is that you need to reach out. If you have a weakness in anything in life, and an addiction, you're not doing something, you need to take massive action. You got to take massive action. I had a case recently as well. This was subhanAllah, I hope you don't mind me going off on a tangent. No. I just want to be a little bit more realistic with some of the cases that we get. But I had a case, and I can't give away too much information. It's always challenging because, but I had a case whereby the sister has got mental health issues. There's some daughters involved. There's a husband who loves her. And subhanAllah, she gets suicidal thoughts, and she gets even thoughts about doing stuff to the family. That's pretty alarming, right? And there's a lack of deen. There's no real implementation of salah, of adhkar al-sabah wal-masa, right? Of dua, of being close to Allah. There's trauma. There hasn't been the therapy that should have been done, right? And so subhanAllah, they send her away to hospital, right? And she has to be managed there, and subhanallah, she came out for a day visit, and things were, and it was a really beautiful day with the family, right? And subhanallah, I'm not gonna say, I don't want to say too much without
You have to think 10 times before you say something. So.
Yeah, and then subhanallah, the brother calls the hospital, and he says, "Hey, look, she's doing really, really well. Can we keep her for the night? Can we keep her over for the night? But the hospital, and they know their human behavior. They know they don't want to take risks. They said no. Called again, no. He goes, all right, alhamdulillah, no worries. On his way to taking her back to to this hospital. Long story short, she tries to stab him. She's got mental health issues.
Wow.
Right? And subhanallah, he almost died. And then he goes to me, he says something to me, and he goes to me, subhanallah, he goes, that day, I actually did half of my adhkar. The morning supplications that protect you. He goes, I actually did half of my adhkar. He goes, probably that's what saved me. Two things came to my mind, or one major thing. Imagine they said, yes, she can sleep over. And he was asleep. And the kids are there. Can you see where this could have gotten to? Or imagine he didn't say his adhkar, and that weapon penetrated just 1 centimeter deeper around the neck. The doctor said, you would have been dead. And he showed me the photos and everything, and I was just like in shock. And so what are we talking about? We're talking about do the work, obsess over the work. If you have a weakness, if you're not good at something, put your hand up and say, look, I'm a lousy lover, I'm a lousy companion, I have issues that are impacting my relationship. Put your hand up and get help. Otherwise, you're going to be your own worst enemy. Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent. I want to just sort of emphasize on the importance of taking a lot of this content quite seriously.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair. I guess, Sheikh, you're in the community, you're dealing with these issues, and if there's anything that you want to share, please feel free to do so.
Jazakallah. And I only share it out of to inspire my brothers, my sisters, to help others as well, to encourage others. I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to your friends, I'm talking to your siblings, I'm talking to your parents. We are a community, and we're very fortunate to be together. That when brothers like that or sisters come for me for help, I feel like, wow, like that's so amazing. That's such a gift from Allah Azza wa Jalla to be able to help others. Because the Prophet ﷺ said in one hadith, for you to help somebody in need is more beloved to Allah than you perform i'tikaf, or for you to help a brother in need is better than you performing i'tikaf for a month in this masjid, which is the Masjid al-Nabawi. For 1 month i'tikaf, it's better go and help somebody's need. So yeah, I could be sitting there and just stay in I love reading, I love Quran, I love tafsir, I get wowed by the Quran and the message of the Quran. But I don't get a lot of that time because I'm too busy trying to answer messages, fix problems. But I can't be selfish because this is more rewarding than that. Even the Quran reading and tafsir is amazing, but I have to look at what is more rewarding for others. And that's how we need to think. We need to think about how can we, insha'Allah ta'ala, make a contribution. Like Brother Ahmed, Jazakallah khairan, to Isra, to yourself, who is offering this platform to help others.
Jazakallah khair. I was actually looking at the stats for 2021. I looked at the number of marriages. I think it was around 90,000 in 2021 that were conducted. And then the number of divorces were, I think, around close to 60,000. And that's almost like 60%. So in that given year of 2021, the number of marriages compared to the number of divorces were almost like 60%. So we do believe that there's more need, and hence we've also designed this course and wanted to go ahead with it, inshallah. And Jazakallah khair. I think the more we learn, the more we can, inshallah, try to raise awareness and also put into practice as well, inshallah. So I know I haven't given a break, but let's move on to no break tonight because we're talking about love, inshallah.
Sorry about that. I completely forgot about
the break. We don't break from love. Oh, good. No problem, inshallah. So let's move on to the last one, Sheikh, which is the physical touch. So let's take us away with that one, inshallah.
Physical touch. So physical touch is exemplified or displayed in different ways. So if that's your partner's love language, it might mean that they love when you hold their hand. They love it when you pat them on the back or you give them a massage, right? That you cuddle up, right? They feel connected to you, you know, and subhanallah, we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with this sense of touch, right? And there's three types of touch. There is no touch, which you feel neglected. Okay. Then there is an abusive touch where you feel abused. You know, you strike the person, and then there is a gentle touch, which is you feel loved. Right? And we want to focus on that touch. And we know the Prophet ﷺ, interestingly, subhanAllah, I remember about 20 years ago, maybe, when I remember listening to a statistic, and I found that, and it just registered. And again, at the time, I associated it with the Sunnah. So the statistic was that men who kissed their wife before going to work, lived on average 5 years more.
MashaAllah, 5 years more. Brothers, married brothers.
Right? Now, I don't know where they come up with these statistics, right?
That's interesting.
So, but it was something that they said. There's some research, right? Yeah. Who knows the authenticity? Allahu alam, right? Let's just go with it.
Okay,
but we know that the Prophet ﷺ, when he set out to pray, the hadith says that he would kiss his wife, right? And hence the opinion of most of the scholars that if you kiss your wife, it doesn't break your wudu. Of course, there's difference of opinion about this mas'ala, whether it breaks your wudu, it doesn't break your wudu. But we're not going to, no fiqh talk today, right?
Let's not do that.
No fiqh talk today, right? So we know the Prophet ﷺ would do that, okay? We know that, subhanallah, and part of the touch is intimacy, okay? But what we have to understand with intimacy is we work differently as males and females. That females need to be relaxed, females need to not be in a negative sentiment override, and that's what the brothers need to understand. That it is very hard for a woman to be intimate, especially if that's his primary love language is physical touch. Then he has to understand. He better make sure that he's talking her love language and he's ensuring that there's that emotional connection, which we said leads to the physical connection, right? So being intentional about that. So again, physical touch is a love language, and if that's your partner's love language, prioritize it, and maybe talk to them about what are the limits. What do you like? What don't you like? What makes you comfortable on any level of those physical touches, right? Someone might like to be touched on the face, but maybe to somebody else it's like, I don't like that. It doesn't mean he doesn't love you because he doesn't like that. Maybe he feels awkward. Maybe it feels weird. All right, everyone's going to be different in terms of how they receive the touch. What's inappropriate touching for you? What are the boundaries? And I think that's another topic altogether when it comes to relationships is establishing those boundaries, communicating those boundaries on, insha'Allah ta'ala. But it is important that if to prioritize physical touch if that is your partner's love language.
Yeah, and I guess you really need to. I feel at the core of all the love languages that we spoke about tonight is listening. Like you just said, you need to understand what they like and what don't they like. I just reflect on my own marriage. It's not always the case that I hug my wife that she's happy with it, right? Sometimes she doesn't want me to touch her, let's say. So I got to be careful and understand that, know that, okay, this is not the time to actually touch or hug, or, so And I've learned that through experience and through communication. I feel that with every single thing, like gifting, physical touch, quality time, you gotta know what they really value, words of affirmation. You really have to listen, right, Sheikh, and understand and identify the languages of love. But how do we? I guess you talked about, if they light up, that is the language of love that they prefer. And you did talk about a test as well. How do we take this test? Like, where can we find it?
So going back to what you said with regards to listening, I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us with 2 ears and 1 mouth, I think for a reason, right? To listen twice as much as we talk, right? But this is the issue. When it comes to communication, which is a very big buzzword when it comes to relationships, and communication is instrumental, is key, right, to discovering the love language. So when you're communicating, I think it's important to listen to 2 things. To listen to the person, to actually actively listen with undivided attention, to listen to the person, and to listen for the message, for the underlying need. And I think some of us need to practice that. So the message right here would be, listen to your partner and listen for. But as you're listening to, you're listening to their words, but subhanAllah, the studies have shown that when it comes to words and communication is made up of 3 parts. And when it comes to the words, the words are the least of the things that you should be looking out for. It's about 7%, I think 7 or 9%, does anyone know? 7%, right? That's 7% you're listening to the words, right?
Especially with women.
So, yeah, subhanAllah. Look, we know women speak, the sister just said, especially with women, women need to talk about 20,000 words a day compared to about 7,000 words to males, right? So now we understand that وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, and the male is not like the female. So way before Dr. John Gray came around and said men are from Mars and women are from Venus, Allah's telling us, and the male is not like the female, that we're different. And we have to work with that. So the words are 7%. The tone is about 33%, all right? And the body language, right, is about 60%. So it's a big difference when you show up in person, when you're looking at their body language. That should tell you what the person is probably wanting from you, right? So going back to love languages, listening, like I totally agree with you. It's about communication and it's about listening to, listening for, and keep in mind the different areas of communication. And also when it comes to the assessment, so you go online, just type in love languages assessment, and you come up with an assessment, and you just do it, and it'll give you the results. Do it for yourself, do it for your partner, do it together, have a laugh about it, all right? But then take it very seriously and say, oh my God, I have to be more intentional about how to love you the way you want to be loved, and you have to be more intentional about the way I want to be loved, okay? And inshallah, between taqwa Allahi Azza wa Jal, between love languages and human needs and values and personality types, and your personality is like this and my personality like that, and having respect, then inshallah we should live happily ever after.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Wa iyyakum, wa iyyakum.
Do you guys want to stretch a break, or should we go? Yep. Okay. So let's give a 5 minutes break, inshallah. So it's 8:23. Let's come back at 8:28, inshallah. All right. So welcome back, everyone. And I guess at this point, I'll open the floor to questions, inshallah. I'll start with the floor here, and then I'll go to online. So any questions from the floor?
You have the question.
Jazakallah khair.
Yes, please.
I think you just touched on it just before we went to a break. Something about respect. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think on both sides, husband and wife, I think both parties, more than anything that they would probably need or want, is respect, rather than just their needs and all the rest of it. Do you agree?
Just thank you, brother. Very good question. So he's saying that is respect the most important need in a relationship, in a marriage, more than these other things, perhaps. Yeah.
So the research shows that the two highest needs in a relationship, for it to be thriving, turns out to be love and respect. And interestingly, we have to go back to this ayah that says, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, the male is not like the female, that we are different psychologically, neurologically, physiologically, biologically, in our perceptions, and we're different, right? So when it comes to a man wants to be, a man would a man be, I mean, so both the husband and the wife want love and respect, but they want them a little bit differently. So yes, we need to prioritize both, but we need to be a little bit more careful, because when it comes to the man, he's going to be on the side more of the respect. He's going to be looking for more respectful behavior towards him from his wife, right? So now, when your wife respects you as a husband, you actually feel loved because of the respect that she has towards you. I'm feeling loved because she really respects me, right? Now, on the flip side, when you love your wife the way she wants to be loved, then she feels respected, because now you're respecting her need to be loved and how she wants to be loved, right? So on the female side, we find the woman to be more on the emotional love. That's not to say that men don't want that as well. We have to just be very careful. But respect and love are important for both. But it turns out that it's all in. It's somewhat different for each gender. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
That's just how we are. It's our fitrah. We can't run away from the way Allah created us, the way Allah wired us. Okay, and we have to go back to the fitrah and go back to the natural disposition.
There's a question online, and I'll come back to the floor here, inshallah. So the question is, I believe how individuals live or establish certain lifestyle may not be a norm or standard for others or work for others. Is that true? Would that be true?
I'm not understanding the question.
So the question is how some individuals live or establish their lives.
Individually?
Individually, and they have certain lifestyles. Cannot be a norm for others. Is that I guess, is that the case? True. In your experience?
Yeah. So this person comes into the relationship with a certain lifestyle and expectations and way of doing things, and this person comes in. Mm-hmm. But this person doesn't see this as a norm. This person doesn't see this as a norm, or somewhere in between, right? Is that what we're saying?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're talking about a relationship dynamic. We're talking about the way that you're viewing, is that normal, is that not normal? Well, that could be true, that depending on what you define as normal. Okay, so it goes. So what we have to look at is, what's this normal, and maybe then look at it, put it in the scales of the Quran and Sunnah. What does the Quran and Sunnah say about it? Maybe the Quran maybe it's not haram. Maybe it is haram. That's not normal then. Maybe it's mubah, it's permissible. Then it's up to you and your tolerance level for that, or you being able to work with that or not, right? Have I understood the question correctly? I'm just trying to understand.
Let me rephrase the question that I think may be a bit more relevant, perhaps. But can you expect, let's say, a person to change over time? Let's say, perhaps this is talking about people having different norms or lifestyles, etc. So you come into a marriage. Can you expect someone's character to change over time?
Character,
like their thinking, their character.
Some aspects can be changed, of
Yeah.
course. Personality types, they say that personality types can't be changed.
Yep.
That they're a bit like your bones, like they're quite fixed. They're structured, like it's just there. You can donate a kidney maybe or a, but you can't donate a bone. I don't know. Has anyone ever donated a bone? You just can't let go of it. It's there. I don't know if someone can tell us, but I think what you have to understand is when you're coming into a relationship, you both are going to make this relationship a very unique relationship, and the relationship is going to recreate you to some extent. So you both make a unique relationship. That relationship is going to recreate you and make you somewhat different to what you used to be because you're married to this person. Because they don't like you doing those things, or they might be insecure, or they might not like that type of lifestyle. So you have to decide, and that's why the communication about that should happen before the marriage, okay? And you ask about the friends and the lifestyle and these norms, and then are you okay with that? It's going to come down to your tolerance. Can you tolerate that? Can you live with that? Are you sure, or do you think you're going to change your partner? So what I've always said, sort of in the past, is don't marry potential. Don't marry someone that you think they're going to change. What if they don't change?
Yeah.
You're taking a big gamble. It's too much of a risk. So I think you have that discussion, and if they're prepared to change, they might be willing to change some of those aspects. If they change, alhamdulillah, and we continue to move on. If they're not willing to change, are you willing to change your blueprint or your expectation? And I think last week when we spoke about blueprints, we spoke about expectations, and we spoke about knowing yourself and knowing the other person. And one of the things that we're talking about assessments today, one of the ways to get to know a person, there's actually a lot of assessments out there that can identify, that help you even understand you and your own needs and help you to understand the other person. So there's a values assessment, there's human needs assessment, there is personality type assessment, there's love language assessment. So if you're not even sure who you are and what or who your potential partner is, you can tap into this work that's just phenomenal.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Actually, I've just been given a note. It says it's about family. So if one family lives in a way, it does not mean it is a norm for other families. I think it's more of a comment from my understanding than a question.
And I think it goes back to what we were saying last week, that within all of us is a culture. Remember we spoke about that it wasn't about you intercultural marriages, whether they work or not. It's about the inner culture within you. Does it marry up with the culture of that person that you want to marry? Can you stay in a in a symbiotic relationship whereby you both can still perform at peak despite your differences, and ensuring that you maintain a very healthy relationship together, right?
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, I'm going to come back to the floor here.
One of the brothers have a question.
Yeah? Okay, yep.
You mentioned boundaries before. I'm just wondering, since the pandemic, a lot more people are working from home. That may be a trend that might continue. In your experience as a marriage counsellor, have you found that couples spending more time at home together has caused any problems with these boundaries? And if so, how have they managed to set boundaries while working from home in a way that is sort of healthy and doesn't cause resentment?
The question is, since the pandemic, more people are working from home, and that means they're spending more time. And has this caused issues from your experience, from what you see? And what are some of the boundaries that we could put in place to make that a healthy working environment? And
definitely, the research and from my own experience does show that when it came to lockdown and being in the same within the same walls, caused a problem, because you're now seeing more of maybe the bad side of your partner that you're not used to seeing, or there's a lot more stress. And that stress then puts you into a probably, like I said, negative sentiment override that just the slightest thing. You're very edgy. I think if you are going to work at home, there needs to be boundaries within. Communicate what's going to not allow you to stress. So maybe communicate when you want to be left alone in your room, in your office, in your element. So I think it's a communication of the time, what time you'll get together, what time you'll have dinner. So there's no failed expectations. You might be expecting that your wife prepares the dinner at a certain time, but there's been no communication about that. So just communicate, especially things related to time, like what time things will happen. Communicate roles, communicate the rules in the house. There's so many different factors. It could be some homes are like very spacious. They have a room that's not shared for the office. Sometimes they don't have that. They don't have that luxury. So sometimes there's a lot of children. Sometimes having a lot of children is not a problem if they're old, or if they're younger, it's more problematic. So we have to assess, I think, the situation case by case, to be able to look at your environment. What's stressing you? What's stressing you? Maybe do a brain dump. Make a list of all the things that's stressing you at home when you're working at home. Make a note of it. Don't just note it down. What did you get angry about today? I got angry about the kids' noise. I got angry about the meals. The meals were not on time. Or I was angry that I heard my wife screaming and I'm trying to concentrate. I whatever it might be. Okay, and then go and have a no offense session. Have we spoken about that here?
No, we haven't.
Because I'm concurrently doing another sort of course somewhere else, and I sometimes think, have I just repeated myself like for the millionth time? So forgive me. So a no offense session would be like, we're going to sit down and we're going to have a discussion about some hot topics or some controversial topics, and there's no offense to be taken. This is a safe space. It's secure. We can talk. We're not going to lash out at each other, and we're here to talk about the problem. And the problem is the problem, and you're not the problem. The problem is the problem, right?
We don't judge.
So we're going to sit down. We're going to have a talk. Okay, what's the problem? Well, I've been working at home and I've realized the noise levels, and what can we do about that? Okay, well, how about we put a partition here, a door, we get a carpenter in, for example. Or how about we do this? Or how about you go find yourself an office because it's not working for you. You can't work with, and the kids are too loud, whatever it is. And you just go through your list, go through your pain points, and try and come to a compromise. Try and always come to a win-win, right? With your partner. Wallahi, it's not like rocket science. It's really just sit down, like identify what the issues are, identify what the pain points are, and let's come to an agreement. And if we can't come to agreement, that's what I did with a couple today. There's a couple, subhanAllah, today that I saw, and there's children, and they got even divorced. It was so toxic, they got divorced. But they know that it could be fixed. So they're coming back, and we're strategizing with them. I said to them, look, guys, I want you to come back next week or whenever you come back, and I want you to have a list. I want you to just create a list. Create a list of all the things that really bother you, that really would make you happy. Maybe a bother list and a happy list, both of you. I want you to, and then bring it in. And you know what? Let's start the conversation in this room, in my office. It's a safe space. I'll be the moderator, right? Just to get the wheels in motion. So we said, okay, do you like that idea? They go, yeah, we like that. Because obviously, they're butting heads at the moment, and there's just so much resentment, right? So then I go, all right. So next session, what we're going to do is we're going to ensure that that basically we're going to go through your list, right? We're going to do that insha'Allah ta'ala, and then what we're going to do is anything that you go home then from there and continue with the list. So we'll practice in here. Then you go home and and then anything that's on the list that you feel is hard, I want you to put it in SBD's list. That's Sheikh Bilal Dannoun's list, right? And then bring it here, and then we'll fight it out together. Okay? And let's say it's not for SBD, it's for the accountant. It's a financial matter. We'll go to the accountant. It's a psychological matter. It's a parenting matter. We'll take it to the expert in each department so they can then work on that pain point with you. What do you say about that? Just practical. Be as practical as you can when it comes to trying to solve problems.
And be brave.
Be brave. Don't be so emotional. Don't be. Try and put your emotions aside when you're having a no offense session.
Jazakallah khair,
Oh,
Sheikh.
yeah, cool.
There's a few questions here online. One of them is actually quite
Oh, yeah,
long. Okay, just stay with me, inshallah.
I'm with you. I'm with you, brother.
My husband's
After a long day.
love language is words of affirmation and acts of service. He tells me I have to show him these before he shows me what I want. You show me love, quote, you show me love and then I'll show you love, unquote. He says, he made an effort to give me all of this at the start, which made me fall in love with him. And now my love language is everything. I know someone has to give here, but we are both stubborn because I believe the man should show his wife how beautiful and valuable she is and make her feel loved, and she will treat him even better. What are your thoughts?
So they're both holding on. They're both holding on until the other person starts first.
That's right, yeah.
And look, you know what?
And they both think that should be the case, yeah.
Be the better person and start first. What have you got to lose if you be the better person? If he's stubborn, then why do you need to be stubborn? I mean, you know, be the better person. Whether you're the husband or the wife, be the better person and just start. What have you got to lose? But what have you got to gain if you do that? You got to gain a healthy relationship, more focus in your worship. Do it for the sake of Allah. Do it for the sake of you being more focused in your worship.
Is there a hadith, Sheikh, which talks about the person taking the first step? Like, do you recall any hadith on that, or like, you know, taking the first step to solve a problem, or?
Well, we know that, for example, that in the ayah in the Quran, idfa billati hiya ahsan. Repel whatever is negative, whatever is bad, with ahsan, with best or better. Subhanallah, it's a very amazing verse. idfa billati hiya ahsan. فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. If you repel the negativity and you be the better person, you be the better person by repelling that negativity with ahsan, with better, right? Allah says, if you do it that way, that means you got to do it with sincerity and you got to use best practices. So you have to learn how to be that person, right? If you apply sincerity and ahsan, you will find yourself coming close together, even if it's an enemy. فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ, Allah is conveying a parable that even between you and the one there is animosity. فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ, animosity, adu, and enmity. كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. It's as if you become as if you're a wali. That means you're very close, okay? A very close friend, bosom buddy, whatever they call them, right? So the scholars, they said, if you don't apply ahsan, then you're not going to get that outcome. In order to get that outcome, you've got to just go in there and you've got to just be brave and you've got to be sincere and, you know, you've got to be the better person, okay? Don't go aiding the shaitan, okay? Go for it. You know, try it out. What have you got to lose? You've got everything to gain. Even in your worship now, like I said, now when you go and do your prayers, do you think you're going to be more focused in your prayers or less focused? Or is it the same?
Do you feel better having?
You feel better.
done that? Yeah, that's right.
Do good, feel good, right? And then when you're feeling good, everything's going to show up as good. Your ibadah shows up as good. Your work performance. Did you know that statistics show that I think 43% or 46%, somewhere between there, of lost productivity in the workplace is because of, you know, people coming to work with problems from home.
43%.
43%.
That's massive.
Okay,
Yeah.
lost productivity, okay, is because these individuals coming from a very toxic environment are coming to work. Do you really think you are the best version of yourself at work? Do you think that you're doing justice to your employer? You know what I would, if I had staff under me, if I ran a company and I had 30 staff, 100 staff, I would actually invest a lot in personal development to do with emotional intelligence, relationships, human needs, those things, because when they are good at home, they are going to be good at in my workplace, and I'm going to make more money out of them.
Very good.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth, because they're not. I remember there were times when I was working somewhere and I had some challenges from home, whether it's my parents' house or whether it's, my home and my marriage or my children, and I go to work. It was sluggish. I was not the best. I wasn't the best teacher or the best, because I'm bringing to this environment, I'm just coming with my leftovers. But when you come with everything and you're pumped and you're alive and you're happy, you're gonna give. It's gonna show up, right? So I think maybe it's something to think about, and why we should be investing more into relationships.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We're slightly over time, but if it's okay, I'll take two more questions. So one on site and one online. Did someone have a question here? Yep, Dr. Imran. Yep.
There's only one question. I don't want to use it out loud.
Okay.
We can have a follow-up, inshallah.
Yeah. Please, that's okay.
Just a practical suggestion from you. I'd like to request is whenever there is relationship problems or family problems or kids' health or all these issues, I mean, I hate generalization, but majority of the time, that's the woman who have to come up and try to solve the problem. So, what would be your suggestion for those ladies or a man, doesn't matter, who have the spouse who's not very willing to be engaged in solving the problems? So, what sort of approach they should use, or what's in your experience? What sort of things work? What techniques work?
So when there's problems at home, in the relationships, it's usually women who tries to solve those problems. And what sort of techniques would you recommend for both spouses to convince the other person to take a step? And
I agree that most of the time, and the research does suggest that most of the time it's the women who bring up the problems. It's the women who are bringing along the men to the husbands to the counselling sessions, and yeah, just subhanallah, because men find it very hard to air their dirty laundry or to express their emotions or to so it is. You can't stay in a toxic or a dysfunctional marriage. Something has to happen. There needs to be the person who's going to seek the help. Now, if there's resistance by the husband, let's just say this is the case. What I've seen is persistence conquers resistance. So you have to be persistent as a wife. You will talk to him nicely, respectfully. Look, we clearly are not getting anywhere with our conversations. And the definition of insanity is we're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Clearly, Habibi, honey, it's not working. Whatever we're doing, we just don't have the tools. We need a third party perspective, and that's why there are counselors and marriage counselors and experts in the field. They know human behavior. They've seen so many cases. They can give us some suggestions. What have we got to lose? So there's a nice dialogue that's going to take place. First of all, a respectful one. You have to go down that trajectory first. And a lot of the times it fails. And a lot of the times it's on deaf ears, right? I would now advise to go and get some intervention. Try with maybe with the parent, say. Or maybe if it's too close, parent is a bit too invasive and they're going to look at me differently. Can we try with an uncle? Can we try with the sheikh? Can we call the sheikh? So a lot of the times what happens, the ladies call me and I've got a standard message. It just gets overwhelming. And so I would actually just message, say, hey, thanks for reaching out. Please book in a session. Then they'll turn around and say, but my husband's not cooperative. Right? It's like, okay, I got to now add this to my workload for the day, right? Give me his name and number. Give him a quick call. Hey, brother, assalamu alaikum. Your wife's reached out to me and she's saying things aren't too great at home. May Allah make it easy for you, my brother. May Allah bless your family. Look, can we just have a chat? Just can we just spend some time and just talk? And I'm not here. I'm not your judge. I'm not here to judge you, man. I'm just here to listen to you, to offer you some little bit of knowledge that Allah has blessed me with, some experience, and then I give him some examples. You gotta make them feel safe. It's a safe place. They've never done this, by the way. They've probably heard some disaster stories. That's what's happened too. They probably heard some stories whereby, they went to counselling and then they ended up getting divorced because of the counselling. There's stories like that, right? So you got to give them that, So I think, okay, after that step, let's say that step fails. Inshallah, it doesn't fail. Inshallah, they'll come in and say, you know what? Sometimes it's you plant the seed and they'll come later. But let's say they don't, and the woman is still being abused or they're still being neglected, and she feels checked out. Now here, she gets the advice probably from the counsellor or from the sheikh. What do you think I should do? Now, everyone's going to have a different story. It might be something that's tolerable. It might be she's the problem. So you have to get that. You have to get the advice from the expert that might put you in your place and say, well, can you try this? Can you try that? Let's say, no, he's totally out of line. It's actually him, right? Then I would suggest that you basically give him the ultimatum. Now, the ultimatum is, look, I'm packing my things. If we're not going to get help, I'm packing my things. It depends on how serious the situation, and it depends if you have an exit strategy. You have to then start working on your exit strategy, because some women can't just pick up and go. So that's why you have to talk to somebody that can help you through a process to ensure you as a woman are being protected, your children are protected. What if the guy's a psychopath? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to protect. We're trying to ensure the safety at all times. Believe it or not, sometimes divorce becomes the solution. Divorce becomes the solution. So in the couple that I had with me today, they had to divorce to come back to me and see all that comes with divorce and the baggage that comes with divorce, to now strategize and start working with me. Mind you, I asked many months ago to send me just the basic expectations, and it wasn't sent. But when now things are getting bad and the kids are being impacted, now they're happy to cooperate. So it's good. It's a process, and every case is, once again, case by case. But the saying is, the more you tolerate, the more you teach your partner what they can get away with. The more you teach your partner how to treat you. It's your tolerance. You keep on tolerating abuse, partner says, oh, she's just going to have a bit of a cry. She's just going to go to her parents for a day or two. She'll be back. It's all right. I can get away with it. Yes, doctor.
Quickly share some strategy on you.
Yeah, please.
So what I normally say is no one actually, especially the men, they don't want to be vulnerable and they don't want to be blamed. So normally I say that, like you said, the problem is there, no one's naked, no one to be blamed. So the problem is there, and I need help. So when we actually ask, that person who's not very willing to come, you say that, your spouse needs help from you. She's feeling that, he's feeling these sort of things, rather than you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So then I think it's a bit more likely to.
Yeah, there definitely is. I use that strategy as well. So sometimes I'll say, look, your wife just seems like she needs a lot of help. Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. Thank you for reminding me, doctor, that we actually say even sometimes things like, look, and she spoke to me for an hour and she seems so hurt and upset. Can I just spend some time and I get him to talk, maybe for an hour? And well, look, now that I've heard from you and her, look, can we come in and I've got a strategy. I think I've got some tools. Because what I've realized is that couples that are in healthy relationships and healthy marriages, it's not that they don't have conflict, but they have the tools and they have the knowledge on how to navigate the conflict. I've got a few ideas. Wouldn't it be great? Think about your children. Think about this. Come on, we can make this work. We have encouraging words. Yeah, and you're right. You don't want to go down the blame. And she said that you did this, and she said, you have to really strategize. Absolutely right.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. It is 8:59 p.m. I do have a few questions, but he's had a long day as well.
No, I don't mind. I'm
Okay.
I'm open.
One last question, maybe just 2 minutes.
I'm open,
That's it.
please. I don't mind if it's more. This is
Is
very.
that okay? One other question?
Inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. All right. We won't have him again, so this is his last week. So the question is this, Sheikh. So, what are the most common complaints for how men feel disrespected? I've heard these examples. Number one, not following the budget, correcting him or talking over him in front of people, putting or arguing when he makes a decision. Are there any key points as we as women should be more aware of when showing respect?
Don't make him feel like a child. Don't make him feel like a child. Don't watch your tone. That's a big one that comes up. Like, just the way she talks to me. And again, it comes back down to the person's personal story and their sensitivity to that. And it could be that they have confidence issues. They want to be appreciated. Appreciation is very, very important. Appreciate your man. Talk to him, feminine like. Make more of an effort to look attractive towards your man. And then I would say the same thing to a man towards his woman, right? But we know that men are more attracted through the eyes. And subhanAllah, when you look attractive as a woman to your husband, he actually feels like more inclined to be into you. It's just, I don't know what do you call that? Fitrah, right? A person looks beautiful. That you just naturally are inclined to them, right? And especially, so look your part as a wife. Allah created you with, use the beauty that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala that He gave you to keep Him connected to you, all right? Your tone, talk to him at the right time as well, at the right time, because this is the problem, that the husband's got a lot of stresses from the work and he comes home and he doesn't want a list of problems. He just wants to relax. He wants to feed, right? He wants to rest a little bit, okay? But just those things, like even when he comes home, just be at the door. Just be. There's an Arabic proverb that says, "La'ini wa tghaddini," which means like greet me, but then feed me. Like the greeting is more important than the food, right? I'm just thinking about it. Like, when if my wife sat there at the door, and she's greeting me, and she's just there greeting me. It's like, wow, man, she knew I was coming, or she saw me in the camera, or whatever, and you just feel like that's appreciation in action, right? He let me take your bag. Here's a cup of drink. Oh wow, just make him feel like a king in his castle, right? And make her feel like a queen. Like make her. It works both ways, of course. But I mean, the questioner is asking more about the woman towards the man. So the greeting, the tone, the time, your attractiveness. You are. I think as a woman, you as a woman probably are a little bit like like the I guess like the liver of the body, right? The liver is like the project manager, right? A lot of stuff goes on in your liver, right? It manages a lot of things. That one's for you, doctor. But what we're saying is that you're the project manager at home. You have to ensure the kids, the climate, because he left the house. He's gone to battle as far as he's concerned. And it all depends on the type of work he's doing. How many appointments and how many meetings, and he's stressed about the money, and he's just gotten this notice, and then he just wants to come home and he wants to feel like somebody's he got his back. Have his back. Have each other's back. It's probably one of the best advice I can give is, does your partner feel like you have their back? So it's a number of those things, inshallah ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of our relationships.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We've worked you over time tonight. and thank you everyone for, I guess we've gone almost 2 hours without a break. I do apologize, but inshallah I do hope actually we have given a short break, but yeah, it's been a long session. So we want have Sheikh Bilal Dannoun again for, I guess, this course, but we'd love to have him in the future. But whether you're a single person and getting married, you can get your Katib Kitab done by Sheikh Bilal. Whether you want to get some counseling or you have problems, you can come and see Sheikh Bilal. Or if you want some good material and you want to do an on-demand course, you can subscribe to his online course, which is alhamdulillah plenty of useful resources. So Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for serving the community and continuing to contribute, inshallah, to the affairs of the community. And thank you once again for being here.
Jazakumullah khair for having me, and Jazakumullah khair for putting up with me. And inshallah, if you guys ever need anything, please reach out. Inshallah, be patient with me. Sometimes it's a bit full on when you're in this position, because at the end of the day, I think I wanted to sort of end off on this note saying that when it comes to sheikhs and community figures or community, there's a lot on their plate, and they are also human beings. They're not superheroes. They're just human beings that have their own errors, that have their families, that have their health, that have their challenges, and we need to just work together and give people the benefit of the doubt and give people some slack, I think, inshallah ta'ala. So go easy on all of your mentors and all of your professionals in your lives. It's full on. It really is. And like I said, I can go from honestly, I've had this happen in many of my days, where I go from a marriage and we're celebrating and we're having cake, to probably a funeral that day, to a divorce session, to a counseling session, to another marriage. I'll never forget, subhanallah, when more recently I was in the masjid performing a marriage, whilst two coffins are at the back of the masjid waiting to be prayed on at the Dhuhr time, and I'm performing a marriage and I'm looking at two coffins. Can you imagine the emotions? And actually, I knew who the deceased was, and I just couldn't even. I go, wow, because that deceased person was a very special person, right, in the community too. And it's like, wow, man, I can't believe I'm in this position, a marriage and a funeral in one go. So you have very crazy days. And that's not to mention all the other stuff that's going on at home and all the bills that you're going to be on top of and all. It's life. That's why we're not in Jannah yet. You have to just take every day as it comes and just enjoy the journey. And be prepared for a lot of challenges. There will be a lot of challenges. And I get excited with those challenges. You know what? Alhamdulillah, we're gonna get through this one.
Inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair.
Inshallah. Thank you everyone for online as well, and for your questions. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to them all, but please stay around in the next upcoming weeks, and we'll try to attend to those, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace.